Welcome to the Petanque Show with me, David Plumoff. Today I am joined by the highest member of our European Petanque community, the man at the top of the tree, CEP President and Englishman, Mr. Mike Pegg. Mike has always put himself out for the good of the game and has held positions that puts him at the forefront of our sport. So it's my pleasure to welcome such an important figure in our sport into the hot seat. Welcome, Mike.
Thank you, David, both for the introduction and the welcome. I sort of half expected somebody else to join us for a moment.
Well, you know me, I'm a nice guy. Well, anyway, let's to begin with, your room looks pretty nice, full of trophies at the back there. They all petanque?
Yeah, they're mine as well, believe it or not. I used to play.
Back in the day. Let's not go back too far, eh?
No, we're not.
Anyway, let's begin then by understanding the role that you have within our sport at the moment. I'm sure everyone understands that you are the president of CEP, but can you explain to the viewers just what that role entails and the work that you have to put in?
Okay, well, the post of CEP president doesn't really vary much more than a national or club president. It's pretty much the same sort of duties. I have ceremonial duties like giving away awards, medals, and making speeches, something I'm never very comfortable with, but it has to be done. Meeting and greeting the Lord Mayor or the dignitaries and sponsors at championships. I'm also called upon to, I suppose, solve disputes, and occasionally, although thank God very rarely, I deal with disciplinary matters. But mostly I represent the CEP in meetings with governments, banks, community organisations, federations, whatever really is required of anybody that's in basically at the top of the organisation.
Yeah, no, I understand that.
The planning process. Sorry, go on.
No, that's all right. No, I was just going to say how you got involved in the role. Then, if what was your what was your ambition? Because obviously you were president of British Petanque Association. Was it just a natural progression for you?
Well, I was president of English Petanque Association.
Oh, sorry.
It's all right.
Easier for you, mate.
I don't. To be quite honest, David, I have never ever thought about becoming president of anything or anybody. When I started out really just as an umpire, it was basically all I really wanted to do. The thought of becoming CEP president was way off my radar. I started out in, I think, 2003 on a technical commission because they wanted an international umpire to advise them and help them with the championships in the organisation. The following year, I was elected to the board of directors. And then I think it must have been around about 2013 or 14. The treasurer at the time was also a vice president of the CEP, which was Klaus Eschbach from Germany. And Klaus sat down with me over a beer and said, it's not good he's a vice president and the president. And he wants the vice president and the treasurer, sorry. And he wanted to continue as a treasurer. So he sort of put me forward to take over as vice president for him. And that's what happened. And then when Flemming Jensen finished his mandate, the board asked me to take on the presidency. So I kind of tripped over the job more than actually designed to be in it.
Yeah, but did you want it though? Was it so? It was never something that you thought, oh, someone's leaving, I might go for that. You were just put forward, and it just kind of fell in place.
More or less. The guys would talk to me and ask me to sort of take over the job. And so once I was convinced that that's what they wanted me to do, and I felt that I could do the job, then I put my heart into it, like I do with most things I do.
Is it a full-time position then, or do you work as well?
It's well, I'm retired, okay. Thank God, because I wouldn't know. Although, I've been really lucky that because I was self-employed, pretty much my own boss, so I'm master of my own time as much as I want to be. And so Petanque has gone from being a hobby with a lot of time commitment to pretty much a full-time job now. Yeah. Unpaid.
Unpaid. Yeah. Here we go. Nice little trips away though.
I have to say it's really good fun that all the airports that I land in are in the high street, and all the Petanque pitches that I ever visit are equally just next door to the airport in the high street. So I often see fantastic places from the aircraft as we come into land.
Yeah, where is the main, where is the headquarters then for the CEP? Where do you?
our office, our registered office, is in Luxembourg, at
Okay.
the Luxembourg Boulodrome.
Is it a big place?
Oh yeah, Boulodrome's pretty good. We've got 16 lanes over there, outdoor lanes, it's a massive place. Restaurant, couple of meeting offices and things. So it's great, and we're really lucky to have the support of the Luxembourg Ministry of Sport.
No,
That gives us a little bit of money each year, not oodles, but some. It helps us with, if we want to organise training courses and competitions and things, we can always fall back to Luxembourg. So it's really working well. We're quite happy to be there.
So when the CEP want to put on a European Championships, whether that be juniors, adults, whatever, do you pay for everything, or do you have to work with the country that is hosting it?
By pay for everything, you mean all the hotels and everything else?
No, but like obviously, do you only use venues that have the adequate terrains and that nowhere's ever built up for it? You don't have to pay like for the venue to be built, basically.
I understand you. No, I mean, you take Slovakia when they hosted the championships. It was in a massive great hall in the town, and so they rented that and built a terrain in it, as we did in Belgium. So it's and France, Spain. I mean, is we were under a canvas down by the coast. So it varies. But the only place that we ever go to that has terrains under a roof adequate size, it would be France.
Yeah.
And that's just the way it is, and we're really lucky for that. But nearly everybody else will rent a hall or someplace. Our championships in 2022, which are in the Netherlands, that's in the town square directly in front of the church, with a covering over the top. So we're flexible about, the weather's not going to be too bad. We just need a bit of sun covering from the sun and from the rain if it comes.
How does a country get to host a European Championships? Any chance of England?
Absolutely every chance. It really comes down to one is having a venue, two is having the financial way to be able to support the event, and the decent terrains. But you don't have to be indoors as long as we're not going to be freezing cold. If the weather's okay, we could be outside as long as it's got some kind of cover against any element should they change.
So yeah, that's a no then. Unless we play in the middle of August, but yeah.
There's a financial point to it as well, David. You've got to be able to build the terrains. You've got to have a hotel with decent sponsorship arrangement there to get good prices. There's food to take into consideration for the whole of the 4 days everybody's there. Transport backwards and forwards from airports or ferries or whatever.
Yeah, there's a lot of variables. So do CEP pay towards that as well, or is it all funded by the nation?
CEP doesn't contribute towards the cost of hosting an event.
Okay.
In fact, each federation that hosts the event has to bid for it, and we don't always take the highest bid. For instance, we're looking for variety as well as having a good tournament.
Yeah, no, I get that. Yeah, that's good. So in my opinion, it's quite impressive to see an Englishman, heading the CEP. I'm quite proud of that personally, and I think others are as well. So what is it like then, where as an Englishman being in charge of the CEP, and obviously you get to travel to these different places, different people that have different ideas of the sport and different levels of the sport to an English player or an Englishman? Do they ever is it easy to integrate with them, or do they, because in my opinion, if the French were going to ask me for advice, they probably wouldn't listen to me because they know what's best. But do you know what I mean? Like, has it been difficult to integrate yourself with people when you want to say something?
I've been really lucky, I suppose, because from the outset, when I first qualified as an international umpire, I've been working with a variety of people from different countries. Mostly got better language skills than I've got, but I've always got on well, quite well, because people see that you're willing to work. And if you're willing to work, they're willing to give you the time.
Yeah.
So in that respect, it's not been so difficult. The hardest thing has been on those occasions when there isn't somebody there to translate for me, or I really don't understand what they're talking about. I sat in a meeting for 2 hours and hadn't the foggiest idea that meeting had started for the first 40 minutes.
That was going to be my next question, actually. How do you find it do you find it difficult to communicate? But we were talking like off air about if you can just explain to the viewers how many board members there are, and that they're all different nationalities, aren't they?
Well, the CEP is quite unique. We're not dominated by one nation. Each director comes from a different nation, so we've got 11 directors representing 11 different nations or federations. All but one speaks English quite well. Yeah. They obviously could talk French, or some of them can, some of them can't. And I'm really lucky that they all understand me.
Yeah.
There's a few Englishmen that say they don't do that.
That's good. No, because that's something that I always thought would be quite difficult. Being a head of an organisation that is, it's not, it's primarily a French-dominated sport, I would say. And I guess being the head of it as an English person who doesn't speak much French, I just thought it'd be quite difficult to get that message across sometimes.
It has its moments, David. I've been to 3 French Congress meetings. There's 500 French men and women in the hall. The whole of the meeting is all in French. Most of the time, I have no idea what they're talking about. Fortunately, there's things go up on the screen, and I can start to work things out, because I can probably read it a lot better than I understand it when I'm listening to it. And then I have to have a chat to them for about 10 minutes, all about the CEP. And so we have an arrangement where I speak in English, but what I'm saying is up on the big screen in French, so that they can read it and understand me. So
yeah,
but it's sometimes it's difficult, more so than others, but you get by.
Yeah, you get by. Yeah, that's the thing, and you have to, so you do. Obviously, there's been a massive, pandemic that I don't think anyone quite realised just how big it was going to be. How has that affected the CEP, from cancelled and postponed events to the planning of events this year?
Well, the pandemic has affected everybody, and the CEP is no different.
Yeah.
Just like you, I'm missing being involved in pétanque. Can't get out and practice or play. I'm not even organising things, and that's what I do, sort of like 7 days a week. I'm organising things, and the CEP, each of the board members, we're all missing it tremendously. We're sort of looking at the moment to run tournaments, but things are just so uncertain all the time.
Yeah,
I'm sure, just like you and everybody else that will be watching this, we're all missing pétanque.
Oh, I am,
one way or another.
I went out and threw some ball yesterday, and it was more just a release more than actually wanting to progress my game. It was just I just needed to throw some ball. The weather wasn't great, but I just had to get out, and half an hour was enough to make me feel a bit more positive,
I was feeling like throwing some ball at my service provider the other day, because I was having serious trouble with my internet.
Not good. So what will there be changes then? Just when is the next European event?
At the moment, we've postponed or cancelled everything up until June. So all our meetings are by video. We're not sure what we're doing about training at the moment. We're looking to do some webinars about that if we can. Currently, our junior and ESPAR championships will be going ahead in Santa Susana, Spain, in the beginning of June.
Yeah.
We've got obviously concerns about health, distancing, possible isolation if somebody suddenly was to prove positive. But we're keeping in contact with our host, the Spanish Federation, and their Ministry of Health. And there's so much to discuss, but right now it's just a little bit too early to make the decisions. So yeah, we're doing risk assessments, trying to work out how the hell we're going to do, how we're going to have the competition. Everybody wearing masks. How do you keep them apart when it's breakfast and dinner and things like that? But it's at the moment it's all talk and really no decisions.
I suppose it's all out of your hands as well. I suppose if a government says no, or the government of that country says no way, then that's it, isn't it? It's done, postponed.
Absolutely, yeah. At the moment, Spain and the Ministry of Health have said, yeah, it can go ahead on the assumption that things are going to be improving by then. They've already laid down some regulations, if you like, for social distancing, wearing masks and so on. And we've got to sort of see how that all fits in with playing pétanque. And it's achievable, if things improve.
Yeah.
The question is, are things going to improve everywhere so that we can have a championship? Because I'm not in the business of organising the championship for 1 or 2 federations.
No.
I'm here to organise a championship for 40 federations.
Yeah, absolutely. What about indoor events then? Because obviously with this virus, they say that outdoor sports, so to speak, are a lot better to play than playing indoors. So will that have an effect on where places host it?
As far as Spain is concerned, we're talking about playing outside anyway.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's June. We're expecting the weather to be reasonable.
It's always
so maybe shade will be the problem.
Yeah.
Right. But so we're looking to hold the juniors and the Espoirs outside, just to give us that more flexibility. But the men and the veterans, which is September, that's planned to be indoors at the moment. But I've got to talk to the French Federation about that.
Where is that? Where are they being held in?
In Albertville, which is France, is not that far from Grenoble.
Okay, and that's supposed to, and like you said, that's supposed to be indoors, so that may well change.
Yeah, that may, I don't know yet.
Okay, that's cool. So you were just there talking about juniors and espoirs, and I have a real thing about this. I'm not a big fan of the espoir category. I think it should just be a youth. When you're 18, that's it. Because I just find that it's just a bit of the transition from espoir to male. I just don't think it works very well personally. Have you ever thought about that? I suppose you don't have control over that, do you? So that's an international.
No, the Espoirs is unique to the CEP.
Oh, is it? Oh, okay.
Yeah, we introduced we introduced the Espoir age group because when a junior becomes an adult, they either stick with the sport because they're really good and the adult teams snap them up, like the Dylans of this world. Or otherwise, they're off to uni and things like that, and we lose them completely. So
yeah, no, I get that. Yeah, no, I do understand.
The idea was to have an event for them to try and retain them, which seems to have worked. You know, we seem to keep that younger age group, adult, into the sport, which is quite important.
Could you not just have an umbrella, or like almost like under 23 level? There's no junior, just up to under 23 or up to under 21.
Yeah, then you're bordering on the point where you get a 16 or 17-year-old playing against somebody who's 19 or 22 years old, and there are disadvantages, as you can imagine, because with experience and so on.
Yeah, no, I get that. No, it was good to hear your thoughts on that. It's just something that I've just never really understood it, but now you said it, I guess it does make perfect sense, to be honest. Maybe in England we just need to work on that transition a bit better. Maybe that's where I'm getting my information from. So for the first time, there will be a girls' European Championship, won't there? So it's segregated, isn't it? For the first juniors, yeah, that's it. So junior girls, junior girls. Is that the final step then in the direction of full segregation?
Well, I'd hesitate to use that word, segregation.
Okay.
Well, I understand your point. Yeah. I mean, I sort of think more along the lines of presenting female players with another opportunity.
Yeah. No, I agree with that.
There aren't that many. And even when you have mixed teams, which we used to have at World Championship and European level, there weren't so many teams with mixed players, mixed genders. So when you consider there's in Europe now about 79,000 women players.
Oh, wow.
And of that, there's, I don't remember off the top of my head. I think there must be about 5,000 women juniors.
Okay.
Or female juniors. Not a big number, perhaps only a third of the total number of juniors. But even so, they don't get to play outside of their own country unless they're really talented. And somebody snaps them up. I mean, France is one of those countries which seems to promote the youth in the sport quite well. And so you see younger faces out on the terrain at major tournaments. So we've been lobbied, 2 or 3 years or more about having a girls' championship or junior female championship. And it's been a long way coming, a lot of discussions. So we did think it was going to happen before now, but we had to postpone it because of the pandemic. And even now, I'm not too sure about it because there's a child needs to be isolated, then we've got a problem. So
yeah, that's true. Yeah, so
take lots of precautions. But
so
I
when
think
you, yeah,
we have to promote our sport. Sorry, we have to promote our sport. We have to promote females. You know, we're talking about becoming an Olympic sport at some point, and yet we have an argument about girls playing. You know, just a bit crazy.
yeah, no. Do you see do you see enough countries being able to present a team of girls? Is that something that's you thought about, or do you think every nation that you invite will be able to field a?
We've looked at it. We've got 40 nations. Not every nation has juniors. That's the first thing. They don't all have juniors, let alone having female juniors. And I think it's going to be difficult to get a full-blown 16-team or more championship going. But we've got to do something, and it's that first step. And hopefully that will encourage more federations to spend a little money on their female juniors to get them out and playing.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. It will be a really good step to creating more opportunities, because I obviously remember when I first started playing, it was everything was mixed. I believe even I think there was only like a ladies doubles maybe or something like that. But anyway, and I know it's primarily the men would go, apart from say Vanessa Webb. But when there wasn't that segregation or whatever word you want to use, was it would you rarely get then a lady player with two men, or would you ever get a team of just ladies, or was it always
there was never a team that I can I can't remember, but I got a sort of vague remembrance of a two women and one man team. But nearly always it's if it's going to be mixed, it'd be two guys and a girl. In the juniors, it was always that way.
Yeah.
It's either three boys or it was two boys and a girl. Simple as that. So we had the women's tournament was one of our very first championships, women's triples. So we had the women's triples and junior triples long before we had the men's.
Okay.
And then after the men's, we went with the Espoirs, and that was then split to men and women. And it seemed natural to follow that through with the juniors.
Yeah.
We've done it with the singles. Singles are men and women. Although this next year, 2022, the CEP is introducing mixed doubles, like they do in the World Championships.
Okay. Well, that'd be good. Yeah, no, that'd be good. Why couldn't we have when it was like just a mixed tournament? Why couldn't we have had it so that you have to have a lady or girl in your team? You couldn't have had
because not every federation would put a woman in the team.
Okay, so simple as that then.
Absolutely. Even when you go back to the early days of the Euro Cup, and I can't remember exactly the formation that we had, but we had to change the scoring system in it, how you got points for your wins and so on, because it was pretty much known that if you had a mixed team come up against an all-men's team, the all-men's team would win.
Oh, okay.
And that was the general concept of what was happening and why it was distorting the results. So we just looked at the rules and changed them around a little bit, regarding mixed teams playing mixed teams and so on.
Yeah, no, I think it's a good route to go, and I think if you can see when you're doing it that when you see your membership of European Pétanque that the ladies is improving, then I guess it is the right step in the right direction, isn't it?
I've certainly seen a lot of improvement in women players. I'm not
the participation improved.
Participation has improved, and the standard of play is phenomenal compared to what it was 10 or 15 years ago.
Yeah, well, why do you think that is?
More opportunity. I think at the end of the day, it's more opportunity, David. Every time, if you have a championship, you've got something to work towards.
Yeah, and inspiration as well. When you see even me, when I watch the French ladies players playing, like Cindy Poirot and Caroline Bourriard and that, I don't even know if that's how you pronounce it, but anyway, it inspires me how good they are. It's unbelievable, the work and the practice they put in. And, and if a young girl sees one of them players playing like they did recently in the PPF, it can inspire a generation, really. And that's something
absolutely, yeah.
So hopefully, yeah, good luck with that. I think it'll be a good tournament. And like you said, taking that first step is important. Even if it isn't the most successful in terms of numbers, eventually you'll get there because you will get the numbers that want to do it. If someone
it's early days. It will be our first tournament of its kind, and we've yet to see how it goes. We may have to make some adjustments because of the numbers involved, but it's the starting point.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, let's move on from that anyway. I just want to talk to you now about formats, basically. Now, when European Championships, normally they're Swiss followed by a knockout or a barrage and a knockout or a quadrage or whatever it's called. Is that always going to be the way, or have you ever thought about mirroring, like Football World Cup, or having just leagues and knockout? Or
we can't mirror things like the World Cup and or European Cup, those sort of things, because they're played over a great many weeks, and we're trying to squeeze a championship for 40 teams into 3 to 4 days. So we have to have some kind of system that will allow us to do that. At the moment, we use the Swiss system, pools and then elimination or knockout. But we had planned to change that for 2020, but it will now happen in this year, 2021. And basically, we're going to drop the pools and we'll just have Swiss followed by elimination. Really, what that means is that they will play 5 to 6 games in the Swiss untimed. And then instead of 8 teams from the pools going to the championships and 8 to the Nations Cup, it will be 16.
Okay.
So they don't actually lose anything by it. In fact, it just gives more teams an opportunity to get into the championships and to play for the big cup.
So will the Nations Cup still be about all that?
Yep, the Nations Cup we'll have the top 16 from the Swiss will go straight into the championships, and the remaining teams will go into the Nations Cup.
Okay, that's cool. No, that's a good positive. It's a bit like when the Euro Cup's recently been changed, hasn't it? So I guess it just gives opportunity to nations.
I mean, with the championships, we've been using the Swiss system long enough to know that it works.
Yeah.
To have confidence in the ranking system from the Swiss system. So there's no need to have pools, just to provide a couple of teams with 2 games. One team, in a pool gets 3 games. I think it doesn't really work out when the ranking is in the Swiss.
Yeah.
So we can have confidence in that. Go for the Swiss straight to the knockout, and we take 16 teams into the main tournament.
And like you said, even though it's squeezed over 3 or 4 days or 4 or 5 days, you still got to make nations want to come and be interested in playing. If you're going there and you're only getting 2 games or 3 games, then people are going to be like, well, what's the point?
Well, that's the trade-off between turning up for the World Cup and playing a game and getting knocked out of your pool or whatever. This is about playing 5 or 6 games over a day and a half, and then working your way through the elimination to get to the medals.
Yeah, no, I don't dislike Swiss. I know there's a lot of we talk about a lot in England about Swiss system. I mean, winners play winners. I mean, it seems quite infallible, really. But I guess I'm just where I'm a football head. I just prefer, like leagues and knockout. That's just my.
It's also, I mean, the Swiss system isn't the easiest to understand. And unless you really understand it, it's difficult to just look at a board and work out how you're going to do and what you need to do to go that bit further. And anything that puts a bit of doubt into a player's mind is a negative. And that's why we try to overcome that by providing as much information about each round as we can during the course of the tournament.
Yeah, absolutely. They always run smoothly. Like I played in 2017, I had no issues. And also, like you said, with Swiss, I suppose there isn't really any. You know what's going to happen. You just need to win your games. If you win, then you're going to get better. You're going to progress. So that's
it's strange, that isn't it? If you win, you progress.
Well, I know. In like group stages, you can have second chances basically, but in Swiss, you've got to win your games. You've got to win to get through. So
that's it.
Anyway, let's final CEP matter then. It's a talk of in England mainly, but I'm sure it's throughout the whole of Europe, and that is creating more publicity or maybe TV coverage and turning our sport, our game, so to speak, into a sport, into a more mainstream sport. I know in France it's played, almost religiously throughout the country. But in other nations, how can we? You may not have all the answers, but maybe we can think any advice of how we can improve in that area.
Well, I don't think there's any simple or single way to generate sponsorship or publicity, because by its very nature, it's a complex challenge. If you sort of talk about sponsorship, you've got to have something to give to the sponsor, because nobody gives you money or gives you nice shirts unless they get something back in return. And just having the manufacturer's name on your shirt doesn't really work too well.
No, yeah.
And I think, well, I mean, what I've seen over the last 5-10 years, Sweden, Denmark, and Germany, and now England with Martin Hughes have made massive efforts promoting our sport by live streaming. So it's not just the team at home or the friends at home and the family at home that get to watch the players. It's everybody, because it's there on Facebook or YouTube or wherever they want. So with that increasing number of platforms, you can watch various sort of championships or tournaments, and that promotes the sport.
Yeah.
And with that kind of exposure, web or TV, even, I mean, you got France has its own network. We've got a good deal running for their tournaments. Spain is now, the last couple of years, working with La Liga, and that's a platform which is looking to expand across Europe. It's now giving the sponsor an opportunity, because you've got, well, we're on the internet, where you see us on YouTube, you see us on Facebook, and so on. And perhaps that is part of the way to crack that nut of getting that extra money into the sport.
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, I suppose it's all well and good getting it out there, but I suppose what I feel that needs to check, it's a difficult one, because one thing that I don't think this sport is easy to just pick up if you don't play it. So if my mum and dad were watching YouTube and they saw pétanque and an end, they'd be like, they wouldn't have a clue what's going on. And something like bowls, which I do not like at all personally, it's easy to understand because it's all coloured. It's so simple to just roll the ball, and it's alternate play. Is there something that we can change in the dynamics of the sport, or is that something that we're not really going to look at?
Well, I think we've been working towards changing the dynamics of the sport by making people wear team kit.
Yeah.
Because watching various different degrading pairs of Levi jeans and things like that wandering around in front of you, you know, the fact that now teams are wearing a recognisable strip and they look that much smarter has helped tremendously. Coloured balls is not so easy to do, because metal, you know, the colouring on balls doesn't last too long. Yeah. For most TV filming, there will be a dark ball and a shiny silver ball, but that nearly is always just for the finals or semi-finals.
Yeah,
I know there's a couple of companies have been looking at producing coloured balls, but even so, when the ball is rolling or from a distance, it's really difficult to pick up those colours.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm not sure what that answer is, David, other than the more effort we make, the more things that we try, eventually we've got to get it right.
I suppose a country that could really elevate the sport, I think, is America. Now, I always find that with America, when they set their mind to something, they blow it well out of proportion. And over there, they have a sport, I don't know if you've heard of it, called cornhole, American cornhole throwing. And in the last 5 years, that has built up like literally millions of followers in America. It's on ESPN, and I just think you're throwing a beanbag into a hole, and they've made it into something so big. On Facebook, they have like 300,000 members. It's just mad how when they take something, they can elevate it. And I guess that's somewhere where I think we can try. Well, it's nothing probably we can do. Maybe the organisation of the European Pétanque can, but tapping into America and trying to get them involved in the sport more, because that is a country that really does love its sports and elevates it massively.
Yeah, they're due to hold the World Games soon, I think. I'm not sure if it's yeah. So I think pétanque will be featured. Maybe that would be the nucleus to start something.
Yeah, I suppose the Olympics was the one, wasn't it? If we could have got it in there.
Yeah, and I think the French and everybody else concerned was absolutely gutted that we didn't get it.
Was there
really thought it was going to happen, everything that was being spoken about, all the reports we were getting back were quite positive. When the announcement came and we hadn't got it, we were just all stunned about that.
Did you get any feedback? Was there a reason why it wasn't taken?
No, not exactly. Well, not any sort of official feedback anyway. You hear sort of whispers about, different things like breakdancing was used at the juniors and they wanted to take that further. And I don't know. I wasn't in a position to know exactly why it wasn't, but I have my own thoughts. I think we didn't promote it as well as we could have done. We didn't start as early as we should have done. Certainly, we didn't engage with the federations enough because there wasn't a great deal of work put in by some federations with their Olympic committees, and it was a matter of everybody had to do it to get the votes. But, yeah, I don't know.
It's a shame. So, is that put it back like right at the back of the list now, or can we go again?
There's still work going on. The problem we have at the moment is the CMSB has disbanded to all effect, which is the organisation that was combining the sports together. But that's under, I believe that Claude is working quite hard on that at the moment, Claude Azima, and that there's a proposal coming up at the next World Congress, which should be in Switzerland.
Okay, cool. All right. Well, no, yeah, it's a bit, from my own point of view, it's very I maybe because I play the sport and I love the sport so much that I just don't understand why it doesn't pick up the interest that other sports do. And like I said about the American cornhole, I just find it baffling. And same with bowls and bowling. I find pétanque very. It's not just old people throwing the ball. It's aggressive. It's skill.
It is
golf with your hand. That's what I say.
I totally agree with you, David. It's competitive. It's fun. It's exciting. I know all these things. But go on the internet and type in pétanque or ball sports and see what results you get. Not videos, but photographs.
Yeah.
And look at all the different
That's it.
And the age group. It's not with the Olympics. I think that their main drive was youth, to get young people re-engaged with the Olympics, because I think there was a fear that it was getting or is losing some of the youth attraction. Kids like to play games on TVs and videos and so on, which you understand, and it was trying to re-engage with them. So I think that was their main driving point.
Yeah,
and that's something we need to do. We need to be more proactive with our youth.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, we've got to show it off in a different light. Like you say, if you do type in on Google, it will show and no disrespect to anyone, but it will show an old man or old woman holding the ball very, not right, and you know what I mean. And it just doesn't. And people will see that and go, "Oh, I'm not going to play that." Because the first thing anyone ever says to me is, "Oh, you play an old man sport," and I'm like, "Well, no, not necessarily. Come and have a look at the different level."
Well, that's the game we played down on the beach with some plastic ball. What's so serious about that?
Yeah, we've got to start getting out of that. Turning it from a pub sport hobby to a actual sport. So yeah, no. Anyway, we digress and we'll move on from there. I just want to now go on to basically your time in England as the president of the English Pétanque Association. You obviously oversaw lots of progress, and you had a big say on how things were done. Now that you're on the outside looking in, what do you think that things have moved on? I mean, you might want to be careful what you say here, but did you feel like it's really changed since you've left the position? Has it been a,
Yeah, yeah, things have changed. I mean, when I first started as president of England, I sort of inherited the Grand Prix system, and we were trying to move towards squads and selection, but change is a difficult thing for people to accept. Yeah. And so we always, and quite rightly so, because in some respects with selection, you've got to have people that are going to do the selecting. And even if you have a squad system where people are sort of qualifying through the groups or through the squads, you've still got to have people involved with that level, be it your coaches or perhaps some players that are not competing at such an international level anymore. So have I seen any changes? Yes, I certainly have. Have they all been for the good? I don't really know. But as far as England is concerned, I'm seeing the fact that we're starting to pick up some medals.
Yeah.
Our players are younger. I actually applaud the work that I've seen Cy Bird doing with Paul Lancaster with the Espoirs. I've actually watched them at close quarters when they've been at a European Championship. And that was really impressive, the way they brought the team together and got them all working as a unit. So that was good to see. And I think now, these days, that countries where, like Denmark, Sweden, Netherlands, we'll probably see England as an easy win, or Great Britain as an easy win, or easier win, don't see it that way anymore.
No, that's definitely true.
I think, yes, I've seen some changes. Are we improving? I think we are. Am I comfortable with the system that you have for a qualification? There's no good system. There's no perfect system. They all have their flaws, but what you're doing at the moment seems to be working.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I think when I first started playing, I think it was 2007 was my first ever like Grand Prix series. I think it was back then. I always found it brilliant because there was always at least 70 teams at every event before you got into the top 8 or top 16, was it? I can't remember exactly. Yeah. And over the last few years, well, prior to maybe 2019, numbers were diminishing at, trying to qualify for a national of international representation. And I just really enjoyed the Grand Prix series. And maybe, in my personal, if we brought that back, maybe we'd get a lot more teams. So you obviously used the Grand Prix series when you were in charge, or voted on it anyway. Do you feel that is that something that shouldn't have really changed? Or do you feel like
when I started playing, we were getting hundreds of teams at the Grand Prix system, and it would be over a couple of days, and everybody was vying to get into the top 16 and then the top 8 and so on, and it was total commitment. But then in those days, there was nowhere else to go and play. You on a Saturday, you'd probably be travelling if you didn't go very early Sunday morning. We'd all meet up at the Happy Eater for breakfast before we went marching round to where the tournament was going to be, because that's where everybody went. And you would discuss that weekend where you're going to go next weekend. And it would either be a British Grand Prix or it would be something else being run along lines of along the similar lines. These days, you have far more variety of tournament to go to. And so you lose a lot of those people that went along for the fun of it and wanted just a chance to play against some of the top players. And you've ended up with more of the serious players, a smaller group.
Yeah.
And there comes a point with the smaller group of committed top-end players that they're not getting much more other than playing against, with each other sort of thing. So your smaller group then leads to, well, qualification really isn't the way to do it. We've got to look at the skill of the individuals, and that's when you get into your squad and your selection again.
Yeah, I suppose most countries, you might know more than me, do most countries use a squad system, or would you know that information?
Most countries, I said most countries, I don't know most, but certainly a lot of the countries that come to European Championships have some kind of selection system.
Okay. And do you think
France, Sweden, some of that, they all have some kind of selection system in place now?
Yeah, and I suppose that those countries seem to always do well, so maybe it is the right way forward.
Yeah, but they have ballodromes, or they play every weekend, and there's something to be said for having good weather or having somewhere indoors to play, isn't there?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's something that we're talking about now, is how to get something to play during the winter months, because as you know, in England for 3 months we basically hibernate and we don't throw a ball, and then you have to come back into the game, you're rusty as hell. It takes you 6 weeks to get back into it, and by that time other nations have had an extra 6 months on top ahead of you. So that's but like you say, we are getting better, so maybe if we had that extra
you think back to the days we used to march up to Peterborough to the bowls venue. The name has gone out of my mind.
We will see.
But the BPA put in a load of money to have that created. And that was the idea, was that was going to be expanded on at some time, but it never happened, unfortunately. These days down in Kent, you've got the sort of partially covered terrain, and that certainly has helped a lot because I've seen different events going on there. We're moving towards having an indoor terrain, I'm sure, but the logistics are difficult to crack because it's expensive. If you build one, they're very expensive to build. If you rent somewhere, you've still got to be able to maintain it and to finance it.
Yeah.
So playing ball every weekend will not do it. It just doesn't bring enough income. So.
No, it's got to be. That's the thing. It's not just about building it; it's about maintaining it, isn't it? Sustaining it. So, how do these other countries get it then? Do they just have much better investment?
Well, not every federation has an indoor ball terrain. Russia are playing indoors at the moment, but that's not. I don't believe that's a purpose-built venue. Denmark has got a couple of purpose-built venues, but they're in a different kind of culture as well. Because if you go to Denmark, or their ballodrome I went to not so long ago, that was built with a great deal of funding and support from the local mayor and the local town. So we don't really have that kind of culture where you can go along to your local town and say to the mayor, "I want to build a ballodrome to be a community centre." It's not really what they're going to look at, is it?
No.
I've been to places in the Netherlands where they have all sorts of functions, and the ballodrome is more of a sort of local social club as well as the ballodrome, and that's again not so easy for us to sort of replicate in this country.
That's something I do find with these other nations. They seem to have a better. Their governments or their, like you say, their local authorities, they seem to want to invest in sport at any level, at any type of sport. And in England, it's almost like, well, you're a nothing sport, so we're not.
Yeah. How many gold medals have you got?
Yeah. It's very much like that. Yeah. But anyway, let's move on from that. We're coming to the end anyway of our chat here, Mike. So I really appreciate you coming on. It's been really good to listen to what you've got to say, and it's quite intriguing because a lot of the things you've said, and I'm sure thousands of other people watching had no idea what your role involves. But what does the future hold then for Mike Pegg from CEP? Are you, like you said, you fell into this role? Are you going to fall into the FIPJP presidential?
Claude announced a couple of years ago that he was only going to do a few more years, and everybody was wandering around going, "Who's going to take over?" And I sort of just kept my head down and get on with the job I'm doing. But I have been asked if I would take on the presidency in the International Federation, and I have considered it, and I've not made a hard and fast decision, but my attitude at the moment is I think it needs a younger person in there than me. It needs somebody that is willing to work to make the changes on and off the terrain that we desperately need. And really, I'm not so sure I'm that right person. Quite honestly, I love the job I'm doing. It is the best job I've ever had. I love umpiring. It's been that was the starting point for me. My career was all about umpiring, and umpiring has taken me all over the world. But the job as president of CEP is a great job. Really is a great job. And on those occasions when I get to hang a medal around an English neck, it's even better.
Hopefully there's more to come from that. Well, I'd probably speak on behalf of everyone watching that you're doing a great job, and I think we're all proud that it's like I said earlier, it's a British person, English person doing the job of a sport where the English aren't seen as big players, but there you are at the top of the tree. So I think we all are proud of you, mate.
Well, thank you, David, and thank you for the opportunity to chat with you.
No problem.
Bit of trepidation at first, but I've really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for coming on, Mike, and we'll speak soon.
Okay, take care. Bye-bye.